routinely. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So
And I'm rolling whenever.
it's good.
Audio channel's going for you. I'm good.
Everybody rolling?
Yep, rolling.
All right, get started here.
Yeah. All right.
Chief, as always, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
First and foremost, how are you doing today, and how have you been this past year?
Well, it's a process. There are good days, there are bad days, I guess, just like anyone else. But we're moving through, and I tell you, just to see our department, how the response, and even though that everyone knows we're grieving still, but they're still out there doing their jobs, and they're doing it well, and they're keeping our community safe.
Take me back to April a year ago. I know this is technically a month before, but it will be once this airs.
Yes.
Take me back to April a year ago. Where were you? What were you doing when you get that call or get alerted? How did that come through?
Well, I remember just leaving a meeting. I had gotten a phone call from one of my deputy chiefs that said, we either have an officer shot or officers getting shot at. And nobody really knew what was going on because it was ongoing and still happening. And then I received another that we have an officer being transported to the hospital, was getting text messages. Everything was just kind of up in the air and nothing really clear about what was going on. So we decided, my executive officer and I decided, let's just go out there, let's see what we had, and never expected to be going to the worst tragedy in the history of the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department. So
when did you know it was going to be this department's worst day?
I think I realized that when we set up an incident command location and people started confirming that we had multiple law enforcement officers who had passed, who did not make it, and that we also had multiple officers who were shot or injured as a result of the response. And at that time I had to keep it together because we were still working the scene and we were still out there, but I just could not believe, it felt so surreal that here I am in a situation as the leader of this organization dealing with something this tragic.
Has this event changed how you lead this department?
I think it has. I think there's a lot more empathy and respect towards what our men and women do every single day, even though I grew up in this agency doing the same thing. I don't think I quite appreciated the risk that even I took as a young officer. Some of the things that I look back that I worked a lot of drug cases when I was a younger officer. Some of the things that we would do as far as going after suspects and chasing them and not knowing what's around the corner of the house you're going around. So it brought a lot of that to perspective and reality, that we talk about putting on this uniform and not knowing you're going to go home, but nothing was more real than April 29th on that. So.
You talk about the toll it's clearly had on you.
Yeah.
Talk about the toll that this has had on your officers.
Yeah. I think a lot of officers, it's easy to say I'm going to put on a brave face and I'm going to continue doing the work that I do, and I was one of them. I was doing the same thing. What I am proud of is that the stigma of saying that I need help and I can't get through this myself is pretty much wiped away in this agency. A lot of officers have taken advantage of our mental health resources that we have, and that was unheard of. When I came on over 30 years ago, John Burnett and Andy Nobles were shot and killed. I responded to that scene as a young officer. There was no mental health resource. There was no admitting that you need help to get through it, and we struggled and we just had to tough it out. That expectation is gone. So it's taken a toll on our people, but I think our people have also taken advantage of the resources to help them get through it, and I think we're a stronger agency now because of that.
We lost, as you know, 4 law enforcement officers that day, including one of your own, Joshua Iyer, 31 years old, a father, a husband. Yeah. What did the community lose when they lost him?
Well, I say it all the time. These guys are heroes, right? They lost someone committed to their community, who was committed to make their community safer and better. You can't have enough people like a Joshua Iyer that went into the line of battle. He knew what he was running into. So when he got there, the shots were being fired. He was going to help. And that takes a special person. It takes special people to do that. You saw hundreds of CMPD officers respond to that scene just to do that. And there was no hesitation. He went in because he knew he had a job that he was going to save lives. And that's what we lost that day. We lost someone who was truly committed to keeping this community safe.
A true hero.
True hero, yes.
When's the last time you spoke with his family, and what's that relationship like?
It's great. I spoke with Ashley Iyer, his wife. I saw her just a few days ago, and we hugged and talked a little bit, and just know that knowing that they're a part of the family, that we have a special bond. She does with CMPD and me and everyone here that is not ever going to be broken. We know that we hurt together. We feel the loss together, and that we're here for each other to keep each other on our feet and keep each other going.
Yeah.
So the relationship's amazing to just to see her and see that both of us can put a smile on our face when we see each other, and but we also know the tragedy behind that smile.
Yeah. Not to get into private conversations whatsoever, I know that they are a private family, but from the outside in, how are they doing to you?
You know, it's obvious it's tough. And any of us can put on a good face and give the appearance that everything's going great. And but you know that there's pain and there's still hurt inside, and you have to be empathetic to that as much as possible and be there for the family. We're always going to be there for that family, and I think they know that.
I'll get to how you guys have honored him here in a minute. First, I want to ask, where does the investigation stand at this point? Yeah,
so the investigation's closed. The district attorney's made their decision on the investigation. There's nothing to, obviously no criminal charges on any officers, or we know that the individual that was doing the shooting, he's deceased. So that's been closed out. The internal investigation on the shooting itself, it's been closed out. So we've found no fault on any of the officers. So all of that is done and complete. So we've been able to close that chapter and move on. We still have some officers that were hurt that are still not back to work yet, and so that's going to be a little journey in and of itself as well. But for the most part, we're trying to continue to put this behind us and honor that memory, but to continue doing the work that we do.
Was it the right decision for the department to investigate itself?
I think absolutely it was. First of all, I think that there's no better investigating agency than what we are internally within CMPD. As you know, years ago we would do the investigations of all officer-involved shootings ourselves. That's been turned over to the SBI, but when we have one of our own that's been victimized and injured or shot, then we lead that investigation. We have the resources to do it, and they did a fantastic job, and it took several weeks to get this investigation wrapped up, but I'm totally confident and admire the work that was done within the CMPD. So,
I wonder, what about those two women in that house that day?
Well, the investigation was pretty clear that they were not involved in the actual shooting. They were in the house. They were the ones that basically were hiding inside the house while this was going on. So we were able to confirm that, confirm their involvement or non-involvement in this whole situation, and they were cleared. So, but at first, obviously, as you can imagine, the amount of shots from different directions that were coming out of the house, we had to ensure that was that investigative piece was solid as far as do we do we look at what happened? Do we look at these two females as suspects, or do we look at them as witnesses, or even victims themselves? And so we were able to ensure that they were not shooting at any of our officers.
Didn't take part of it, but would you call them victims?
You know, in a sense they were, but also I think that more for the investigative reasonings, we think that, you know, more of witnesses. They could tell us what was going on inside of the residence. But I know there was a fear that for their safety as well while they were in the house, and at the same time that they were a very important piece to this investigation.
But you said they are cleared, so it's not possible they will be charged for any of this.
Well, yeah, at this point, all the information we have right now is that, you know, they were not involved, and I think we're pretty firm on that at this point.
What are the lessons that this department has learned from this tragedy?
You know, I think the biggest thing is that tragedy is just around the corner in this job any single day, and no matter how hard you prepare, no matter how great your plan is, no matter what you do, that things can turn south very quickly. We have to make sure that we're prepared for that, and at the end of the day, when something does happen, you have to be able to say, we did everything we could to avoid that from happening. And nothing's ever perfect. We're all Monday morning quarterbacks. We're all going to look back and say, well, why did you do it this way? And that's fine because it makes us better. But we have over 500,000 contacts with people every year in this profession in Charlotte, Mecklenburg, and any one of those contacts could turn deadly at any time.
Were there any policy changes that came from this?
No, we did review policy. We did look at how we approach things from an investigatory stance and from serving warrants. But you also keep in mind this was U.S. Marshal Service's operation that we were a part of, and we responded to when they needed help. So I think it gave us an opportunity to review all of that, but at the same time, it also confirmed that, you know, we had a lot of the right things in place. We have a lot of right things in place right now. So,
I wonder, this dawned on me,
yeah.
You have a new recruit.
Yeah.
At that academy, do they hear about this case? Do they know about this case? Do they hear these names?
Yeah, 100%. And you know what? When we start talking about the new recruits and the new academy that we bring in, we want them to know that. We want them to hear about this case. We want them to know this is the dangers of the job. This is what you're signing up for. And they know that. No matter how much you can say it, no different than when I joined the police department, I knew some of the names of the fallen officers before me. And I knew that, hey, we've had X amount of officers in the past so many years that have passed away or have died as a result of in line of duty deaths. Yeah. And so you don't want to ever not let them know that they're going to be carrying this legacy on at some point themselves anyway. So they should be able to know about it.
I have just a couple more questions, and it's now on honoring these officers. By the time this airs, of course,
yes.
Next month the nation will come together in the nation's capital for National Police Week.
Yeah.
Will you be there?
I will not be in Washington myself. We do celebrate Police Week here in Charlotte, and we'll have our own Police Week as well, but we are sending a very large contingency up this year to Washington to honor our fallen officer, Joshua Iyer, but also to honor the officers Department of Adult Corrections, and as well as U.S. Marshal Service. So we will be represented really well in D.C. this year.
We, of course, spoke to one of your deputy chiefs last year when we were up there, but I wonder, what does it mean to your officers to be there, especially on a year when they're honoring one of their own?
I think it means a great deal. I've been up there multiple times during Police Week, but to have one of your own being put on the wall, and that you're up there with agencies across the country that have suffered the same pain that you've suffered by losing a peer, losing a brother or sister in the line of duty, and to be able to share that with other agencies nationwide.
Yeah.
It's part of the healing, it's part of the closure. It does so much for the officers that we're able to send up there, and that's why we were really selective on who gets to go to Washington, D.C. this year to represent Charlotte and to be able to honor the memory of Joshua Iyer.
How will CMPD mark April 29th here?
Wow. April 29th will be put down as a date that will live on forever within our agency. I mean, you just look at it, all we have to do is say April 29th and people know exactly what we're talking about. Sean Clark and Jeff Shelton, April 1st. And so you get those dates that are synonymous with the tragic events that happened. It's going to always be a date that will live on within CMPD. I can see we'll all be long gone. 30 years from now, there'll be an anniversary of April 29th, I'm sure, and hopefully no others that go along with it, but at the same time, it'll be in the memory of our agency forever.
How will Officer Iyer be honored this anniversary here?
You know, he's on the memorial wall, not just in D.C., but also across the street here. That will live on forever. Every police week that we do our memorial service, he will be honored with a flag in his name. He'll have a ribbon on the flag of fallen officers. So we ensure that we always remember our fallen. I'm sure you hear of golf tournaments and special events that take place in honor, road races in honor of fallen officers, and I don't think this will be any different. So,
my last question here.
Yeah.
How would you like this community? I know this community rallied around this department in various ways. You know, we saw the blue lights in our neighborhood.
Yeah.
How would you want the community, what do you want them to do on April 29th?
Yeah, just remember what we stand for, not just when the tragedy happens, but always remember the sacrifices that our men and women in blue, not just a sworn, but whether you're a telecommunicator, crime scene search, whether you work admin, all of that takes every bit of that to keep our community safe. And when bad things happen, when controversial things happen, I want people to remember that, we 99.99% of the time, we're doing exactly what we need to be doing out there to keep our citizens and our Charlotte Mecklenburg safe, and that's what we are set up to do, and I hope that's what people see us as.
I'm going to end it how I started it, which was, how are you doing today? And a year has passed now.
Yeah.
But I wonder, you said you're still clearly grieving,
Certainly.
as are many families and colleagues here. How do you personally cope with this? You are leading a huge agency that is grieving itself. How do you cope?
It's tough. You have to be able to talk about it, right? You have to be able to talk amongst your peers. You have to be acceptable to whether it's counseling, whether it's through your faith, and just to not bottle it up. That's one thing I've really learned, is that this is not something that you sit and let boil up, and you have to talk about it as you feel it. And if you can get that out and have conversations, and whether it's somebody else that might be suffering or might be having a hard time with it, those conversations are extremely healthy when it comes to your mental health. So I'm not afraid to talk about it. I'm not afraid to bring it up or answer questions about it, because it is part of the healing. And the more you can do that, the more that you're able to, it's almost a pressure relief valve that you have. So discussions about it are very important.
Chief Jennings, thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate your time.
Yes. All right, thank you.